You are listening to Radio Ramadan 365 podcasts.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. This is Reflections at Radio Ramadan with your host Zubair, Malik, and our respected guest Shaykh Ruzwan Muhammad. In this program, we've been exploring the deeper meaning of Surah Fil and how to approach Quran, not just as a book we recite, but also how we live the revelation. ألم تر كيف فعل ربك بأصحاب الفيل ألم يجعل كيدهم في تضليل وأرسل عليهم طيرا أبابيل وترميهم بحجارة من سجيل فجعلهم كعصف مأكول صدق الله العظيم. السلام عليكم شيخ.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
So Surah Fil, Alhamdulillah, we've explored the approach to understand the Quran, approach to understand Surah Fil, what it says to us and what it says in terms of understanding the word tadabbur, how to explore the deeper meanings, what's the story behind the story is our approach. And inshallah, we will be going on to the ayah number 2 today. Alam tara kaifa fa'ala rabbuka bi ashabil fil alam yaj'al kaydahum fi tadlil. So let's continue with where we stopped yesterday, the connection of the surah with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the meaning of these two ayahs, inshallah.
Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Do you want me to start?
Yes, please.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
False dawn. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wa salatu wa salamu ala Muhammadin wa alihi wa sahbihi ajmain. Very, very tired, so.
Yeah, Ramadan. It was 9th today. So, yeah.
Is it 9th? I have no idea. You lost count.
Ashra of Rahmah just leaving us.
Alhamdulillah.
Of mercy.
Yeah, so we were, as you've said, we've covered the first verse. I think yesterday we quickly covered the final sections of the first verse. And it was an introduction into the context, the conceptualization of the recitation and the revelation to the recipient, which meant who was it given to and who were the actors who were listening to it, and what was their reaction to it, and what is their psychological response and the spiritual response and the physical response to it, because that's important, because the Quran is about impact. We talked about that yesterday as well. And the Quran obviously seeks to elicit a response from the listener, whether direct at the time of revelation or at the time that we are at, which is looking at the events that took place when it was revealed. And all of those are of immediate importance and intended. So, there's a wisdom, which is that the Quran was revealed, it had an immediate intent, an impact, which was intended by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if it was giving the Prophet guidance at the time, it was intended to give him guidance at the time. And it was also, which is a miracle of the Quran, it was intended that we then go back to it and intend by it guidance as well, an impact. So it also has an ongoing intent and impact that's part of the revelation. So it's as if it's being re-revealed constantly. The moment that you understand the meaning of the Quran, it's like it's being revisited by another person. Everybody who's born comes to know the Quran, study it. They're coming to engage with the revelation once again. This is what we were talking about in the first verse. Alam tara, that includes us as people who maybe have read it as one of the go-to chapters of the Quran to recite very quickly, because it's a short chapter. So the short chapters at the end of the Quran, commonly what kids will learn, regardless of whether they're going to memorize a lot of Quran or not. The last 10 sort of chapters would be the go-to. And so people will know these very well, and they will know the general story very well. And then, so we said that it talks about, have you not reflected over, have you not seen, have you not thought of? How? So we said the pivot, I said yes, the pivot of the chapter is the how, meaning what was extraordinary wasn't who the people of the elephant were. Extraordinary thing wasn't that they were defeated, because many tyrants are defeated in history. It wasn't that the tyrant was defeated without, by another power. What was interesting is how that was done, and which is going to come up next. We're going to start looking at it. Then leads us to why. Why was this method used to bring to an end this attempt by the army of the elephant, which essentially is not the army of the elephant. It's actually Abraha, his intent, his machinations, his intention to decimate the city of Mecca al-Mukarramah. Why was that brought to an end? Why was his reign brought to an end? So the why will then lead on, as we'll see, onto the next chapter, which is why these are two. This chapter and Surah Quraysh are considered to be a thematic unity in a sense. Together you get a completely different meaning. So we said alam tara kayfa fa'ala rabbuka, and we didn't go into rabbuka too much, but that is important, because the intervention, that is the destruction of the companions of the elephant, is by the Rabb. It's by the Lord. Lord means the protector, and that means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that is indicating that the reason for it was to protect the sacred precinct, the Haram, and also the Kaaba, and to continue it as the center of pilgrimage, and to continue it as a place that would receive pilgrims from all over. وَأَذِّن فِي النَّاسِ بِالْحَجِّ يَأْتُوكَ رِجَالًا وَعَلَى كُلِّ ضَامِرٍ, as the Quran says. Make the announcement and proclaim the Hajj, and people will come to you على كل ضامر, on every single means of transport. يأتينا من كل فج عميق, and will come from every deep, distant ravine and valley, on feet and on mounts. So to continue that, Allah is the Rabb al-Bayt, the Lord, nurturer of this sacred precinct, sacred temple, sacred house, the Bayt in that sense. And so ألم تر كيف فعل ربك بأصحاب الفيل. أصحاب الفيل, as we said, it said they're the companions, or the companions literally, but it's really the people who are known by the elephant, because it's an army. We will see that it's over 60,000 or so in terms of number. But what's distinctive is not the number. What's distinctive is this introduction of the North African war elephant into Arabia, which has never hit, from what we know in warfare, never tread the sands of Mecca al-Mukarramah. So it was in and of itself important. But the animal didn't intend to come and decimate Mecca. It was brought there, and it was brought there by Abraha. And so the elephant didn't have a plan. The elephant didn't have a plot. The elephant didn't have machinations. The elephant didn't have ambitions for world supremacy and notoriety. It just turned up because it was told. And so the next verse will be, again, carrying on with that inquisition, or this interrogation or questioning. When Allah says alam tara, it's a question. Have you not seen? So this is actually related to pedagogy and education, which is, God doesn't say God decimated the people of the elephant. So the chapter doesn't start like that, as a narrative, as a story, as a fact. It asks you to think. And so the moment people think, it ingrains the idea much stronger in the imagination and the mind. So, because it's getting you to think, isn't it? It's saying, have you not seen? And you're saying, yes, I have, or I haven't. Because the moment you start to use your mind to think, the thing you're being asked about will stay in your memory much more than just a fact that you're told. Because you're engaging, you're using your mind to think about it, it actually starts to engage all the neurons, and it starts to become a memory for you because you remember where you were when you were asked it. What did you think? Did you ask in the affirmative or not? Did you respond to the question in a detailed way or not? And so that will continue in the next verse. ألم ترى كيف فعل ربك بأصحاب الفيل ألم يجعل كيدهم في تضليل. Did Allah not turn their machination and their plot في تضليل? So it's very fascinating imagery here, into loss, into a failure. But the words are interesting. It's ألم يجعل كيدهم في تضليل. So did Allah not turn? This يجعل is actually very interesting because it's actually flipping something. It's for musayara. It's to kind of change and transform something into something you didn't expect it to be. It's almost like alchemy, where you have something and then you flip it to what you didn't expect it to be. And so what's the thing that's being flipped? It's Gaid. Gaid is like a plot. It's actually a fascinating word in Arabic. The way it comes up in the Quran. You know, you probably, I don't know if it's in Urdu, but if it's used and how it's used. But Gaid in Arabic is actually, in the Quran, it's actually a very fascinating word that comes up in different contexts. And Allah says, did we not turn their plotting into something that unraveled? Tadlil is actually, again, another fascinating word in the Quran that God uses this rather than any other word, because tadlil actually relates to wandering. It relates to the root of it. It indicates wandering. It indicates intoxication of a type. It indicates a type of deep infatuation. You know, so infatuation meaning love to the point that you're not like majnoon level. You know, it's actually related to even the story of Surah Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam. It relates to Yaqub because it's used for him when his sons come to him and they see that he's gone into a deep state of melancholy and losing his eyesight. They say, you're still in your old dalal mubin. You're in your old qadim. You're in your old state of dalal, which is this not you're off the path, not that you're lost, but you're in this melancholy, deep melancholy and loss in terms of purpose. Okay, and so that's what's happening here. The Quran is saying that there's a secret plot. There's not just what's happening. There's a kind of you know, chess game taking place here. And that chess game, the person who's playing it and thinking they're about to get the checkmate is about to get checkmate themselves. So it's not check, it's going to be checkmate, the complete destruction. And so that's what brings it. So we have to think about what is the plot, why is it a plot, who's aware of the plot? Because if
You said Qaida. Qaida. What's special about Qaida?
Qaid is a word that comes up. It comes up actually in the story of Zulaykha and Yusuf.
Qaida kunna azim.
Azim. Yeah. So this is
Qaida kunna azim.
okay. So okay, we'll get cancelled here. But indeed, you're plotting. In other words, the plotting of the women folk around Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam. But more, I mean, it's one of these famous parts in the Quran where it's specific to that story where they are trying to entrap the Prophet Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam and Bilqis not Bilqis, Zulaykha specifically. But Allah then says, or it is said in the Quran that inna kayda kunna azim, that you're as a species, it said as a gender actually. The plot of this gender is azim. Yeah, azim. I mean, the why I'm smiling or you're laughing, I'm smiling, is because there's this tendency amongst male scholarship to generalize it, to say that not just at that time, which was the women around the Prophet Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, because they had a reason to plot, because they essentially he was so beautiful, handsome, that there was a direct reason for that. It then becomes like a universal thing that all women have this sense of plotting. But then the plot is what? Because there's a truth to that universality as well, which is that the moment you don't have physical power, physical strength, muscular, power and strength, you have to use other ways of
Yes, it's
being
compensate.
able to compensate, and it's modern sociology to what they say is to assert your agency, to assert that you exist, to assert your selfhood, to get what you need, like for yourself, for your family, for your children. So imagine there's a wife and she's got children, and she wants something for the children. She'll have to go indirectly to get what she wants. Either we're not talking to us talking about her husband, we're talking about society generally, that they have to struggle and use unconventional things from what men would use, which is just brute force, to get their result. So that's called kaid. Kaid is something. It's a plan which is done khufyatan. So it's a plan to do something, and you don't publish it. So you don't have a white paper and you publish and you have a discussion over it and you tell everybody this is the plan is. Okay, let's start. It's something that you're doing strategically to get what you want, but nobody knows it apart from yourself, so that you're able to be more successful. And so if you're looking at it from this perspective, what Abraha, who is basically the representative of the Aksum dynasty in Ethiopia and Eritrea, that area, which is a vassal of the Roman Empire, he has an intent and he needs a reason. And that's why I kind of touched upon the fact that he did many things. He presided over what you could now call an international conference, where you had even Bani Ghassan from Syria coming down, you had representatives from the Roman Empire, you had some of the Arab tribal leaders coming. When he established himself in Sana'a, in northern Yemen, he had all these people coming as international delegations. And obviously he's making himself as a regional, but also making his name as a global leader. And his intent is not just to stick to Sana'a, but what he does do, he builds an amazing cathedral there, installs Christianity, because for a period it was the Jewish religion had a degree of authority in northern Yemen, and even now if you travel, there's still remnants of that. But his ultimate plan, he didn't put his cards on the table, because the ultimate plan was to control the trade routes of Arabia. And if he could do that, probably the first time in history, he would be able to integrate the Hijaz into the global economic political powers of the Roman Empire. But if that was the case, then if the Roman Empire was destroyed by the Persian Empire or defeated, they would then have access to the same thing. So essentially it was an attempt to integrate. So Sana'a would be the gateway to Mecca, would then deeply integrate it through treaties with the northern powers, which were the Sassanid Empire and the Roman Empire. So that was his plot, and the plot was such that it said that the reason he went and did this was because the claim is, and this is quite interesting, because the cathedral he built was desecrated by, it said, Bani Kanana, who was one of the northern tribes, Arabian tribes.
I mean, it was a communal decision, or an individual got fed up and he did that.
So it said that from Bani Kanana, it said one person went, either committed arson, which is to set fire, or the more oft repeated claim is that he defecated, urinated or defecated in the center of the cathedral. And so it's kind of a degree of mockery that he needed a reason. And this comes to actually what came to mind here is actually the Iraq War. So I've just got this picture of Tony Blair like a rabbit in headlights, answering questions even to this day about why he went to why he supported the American, because essentially if Tony Blair hadn't sided with the Americans wouldn't be able to justify a global coalition against Iraq. And it was, what was the weapons of mass destruction, wasn't it? It was something they needed an excuse to go in. So the plot was what? So the headline is, "Oh, we are a global power which upholds justice and peace and civilization in world in a world theater, and this is what America is, land of the free, blah blah blah." And then we don't want to do anything to anybody else, even though we've started like 58 wars since our inception, more than any other country in the history of human civilization. But we're peaceful. Oh, look, there's weapons of mass destruction. So okay, we need to go in. So there's a kaid, there's a plot there where what they're saying is not what they're intending, but it's been done so often that we actually know what they're doing. So this is a kaid. So kaid is essentially a plot, and this comes up in the Quran. It came up in the story of Zulaykha, but it comes up in the Quran in terms of Quraysh as well. إِنَّهُمْ يَكِيدُونَ كَيْدًا وَأَكِيدُ كَيْدًا. So Allah says that they are insidiously plotting their plot. So there's like deeper than plot. They're plotting their plot. So it's deeper. They're plotting. The plot is the plot which is hidden. And they're plotting it. وَأَكِيدُ كَيْدًا. And Allah says, okay, I am also plotting, meaning God is also plotting a plot. And the thing of the double plot, so meaning إِنَّهُمْ يَكِيدُونَ كَيْدًا, that is a fascinating verse, because God doesn't say they're plotting, God is plotting. They are plotting their plot means it's deeper. It's like, I don't know if you watched this movie Inception, where you have to get into somebody's mind, you have to go into a dream state and then go into their dream and tell them an idea, so they think that they are the person that's thinking it. So it's like deeper down. And this plot is such that the plot is in the plot. إِنَّهُمْ يَكِيدُونَ كَيْدًا وَأَكِيدُ كَيْدًا. So it indicates that there's a deep plotting happening here. But Allah is saying, وَأَكِيدُ كَيْدًا, I am also plotting my plot. فَمَهِّلِ الْكَافِرِينَ. And so then leave them alone, because who's going to win in the plotting stakes? It's pretty clear. So Allah here is, in this chapter, is saying, أَلَمْ يَجْعَلْ كَيْدَهُمْ, their plot that he, Abraha, has done, is going to be placed within and instantiated and really situated within complete loss. But loss is tadlil, which is an unraveling. So imagine the plot is very complicated. There's like 10 steps, or I will do this, then do this, then do this, and then this. All of those elements will fall one by one, almost miraculously.
I mean, this concept of qaida again is a full concept, trying to understand. So I never realized that it's used so extensively in Quran.
It's not the extensiveness of the use. It's the point at which the use is made.
وَمَا كَيْدُ الْكَافِرِينَ إِلَّا فِي ضَلَالٍ.
Yeah, so kaid is always about, kaid is it always implies something hidden. It always implies something calculated, and it also always indicates the other element would be a target. In other words, like a bullseye. So you have, it's hidden, and it's steps. So there's like, okay, this, so that no one will know, and it's for that specific purpose. So like in Iraq, plot. Let's say weapons of mass destruction, a gullible Arab leader, gullible Arab leaders in the Middle East, and so we'll tell them this X, Y, and Z. We'll say and then okay, the excuse, the pretext, weapons of mass destruction. We'll use the United Nations, blah blah blah. So everything's falling in place. Some of them don't, and that they're killed. You know, there's the scientists
But
behind the.
having the quality of qaida,
Mhm.
the faculty of qaida should be quite in the front of your mind all the time. You should
Mhm.
know what plotting is, who is plotting, and you should be able to counterplot.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's in war. الحرب خدعة.
Mhm.
War is secrecy. Khida is part of war. It's like deception is part of war. I mean, it's like if you need an end and you know your enemy is doing it, you have to do it for parity. So to equal the playing field, you can't be completely transparent in your intent.
But not just
And
in the war situation, like say, Surah Yusuf,
Mhm.
وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَهْدِي كَيْدَ الْخَائِنِينَ.
Mhm.
Yani, this is not war
Of the
situation.
treacherous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the people who are the treachery would never succeed.
Yes, but that's but you're asking something else, which is to respond, how you respond to it. So the response to it cannot be in a general sense at all points that you plot with people. Like it's unethical to plot. It's unethical to have a hidden, calculated direction towards a target if it's not fair in the other person.
Mm.
Like imagine you're like that's why the majority of the financial contracts in Islamic law that are forbidden are related to essentially duping somebody into a contract where it will lead to a dispute, and therefore the hurma, the prohibition of that contract is related to the fact that it will lead to dispute because the other person feels that they're hard done by because the contract was stacked against them. So Kaid is only countered by Kaid when the effect is in and of itself unethical. So the other side is doing something clearly unethical. You have to counter that. So the easiest, simplest example of that is in warfare. But in a real world sense, God does say that any plot of anybody will in the end come to an end, regardless of if somebody counters it or not, because in the hereafter, that plotting will, even if you're successful, at some point, these people like Bush and Blair and all these people will have to answer some very deep existential questions at some point after their death. So that will unravel at some point. And so the kaid is, as I said, it has to be hidden, it has to be calculated and very particular in steps, and then it has to have this target end, as we said, end game, end goal. And dalal, because it's tied in, is, as I said before, dalal comes in the Quran many ways. It comes in
Gumrahi.
sorry.
Gumrah.
So that's just one aspect of it. Gumrah is basically an intent to go astray morally, ethically. And it also means to be seeking. It also means to lose the pathway. I mean, you're going somewhere and you take the wrong turn. It's not
Yeah,
your fault.
Ra
Dalal.
gum ho gayi na.
Yeah.
Gumrah.
Gumrah, but Gumrah, from if you use it as it is, Gumrahi means like
As well,
going
yes.
off the path.
Yeah. So
Going
the
off the path.
metaphorical meaning is someone who's morally bankrupt.
Yeah, morally bankrupt. But that's not its meaning in Arabic. In Arabic means a dhalla is a camel that goes astray. I mean, just disappears and you have to try and find it. And dalal and dhalla, all these are to misstep. So there's all these
Off track, yeah.
off track, but also deep love. Because if a person's in, so this is what's mentioned in Surah Duha. Imam Qurtubi mentions this. وَوَجَدَكَ ضَالًا, and Allah found you ضَالًا. And so the mistranslation of that and the miscommentary of that is to say that you were na'udhu billah, off the path or astray. Astray would mean na'udhu billah shirk, because that's what it means if you were going to say that. But it means, either we found you longing for us, because if you're in a state of dalal, and you want to get back to something, you're longing for something and you're looking for something. And so when the Prophet was in his uzla and his seclusion in Ghari Hira before the revelation, why was he there? Because he was looking for something. like looking and seeking and aching for something. And it also means this sense of deep love, which the Prophet was in to find out God. Because what was he there for? Not to reflect. He was there to have a relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to come to know his creator. And he absolutely knew that Allah existed as a unified one entity with Tawheed. Or it meant that it was this deep, this deep love. But in that state, you always are looking for something. So you're always missing the target because your love is such that you've not found the beloved. And so that's the same thing with Yaqub in Surah Yusuf. Mufassirun mention it many times that when the sons of Yusuf came to him, sons of Yaqub came to him, they said, we find you in your old dalal, your old, waywardness and love for your son Yusuf. And so dalal means to miss the target. So if you look at the two words, did God not? Yaj'al is actually to turn something, a scenario into something, which is what? That a secret plot with steps for a specific target is now made to miss the target. So that is what dalal means in this context. It's to miss the target. A target which is intended secretively through a set of steps to hit the target is now missing the target. And so you're thinking, how can a clear target which you've planned and plotted and everything stacked for you, elephant, 60,000, all the Arab tribes as they march towards Mecca, all the Arab tribes essentially submit. They don't actually they don't stand in opposition. There's a couple of skirmishes, a couple of tribes come, they're decimated, but essentially they're all in there. So you imagine, why is it going to miss the target? So that's the kayf comes in. Previous verse was what? Alam tara kayfa fa'ala rabbuka kayfa fa'ala. How did your Lord do this? How did Allah manage to pull off something which was something that you wouldn't imagine would happen, which is the target is there, everything's ready, the army's there. It's just a simple task of going, crushing, coming back, creating the trade routes, creating the integration of Mecca into the global powers, creating everything in a way that was never done, and decimating the Kaaba, and resetting all the religious history of that area. Didn't happen. And then you're going to have to ask why, which is going to be in Surah Quraysh. But here, there's this duality between kaid and dalal, which is the target has to be hit. It's plotted, it's planned, it's executed perfectly, to the point that Abraha is already very arrogant, haughty, and it misses. Tadlil. And also the other thing about this chapter, this verse is fi tadlil. Like, it's not just it missed. It's like the image is that, the kaid. The kaid is the plot. Where's the plot? It's in your mind, isn't it? It's not written down. It's in your mind. So it's something immaterial. It's something you have. It's a concept you have that I'll do this and I'll do this and I'll do that. Okay. So it's immaterial. And Allah is making it material. It's making it as if it's something that exists and it's going into something else. It's like you've all got the cage, you've captured it, and you're materializing it, instantiating it in substance, and you're putting it fi tadlil. So the imagery is that abstract thing is being created into something solid. And why is this being done? To create the imagery of how it's a complete, something came to my mind. It's a complete disaster in terms of what happens from what you expect to the complete opposite. Everything's falling apart. Fi tadlil, it goes into unraveling itself. It's almost like the kind of complete burying of the plot into unraveling and loss and waywardness and gumrahi, as you said, the gumrahi, this kind of missing the path, missing the target. It just obliterates the imagery is very powerful. And so then it will talk, the next verse will talk about.
तुमने देखा नहीं कि तुम्हारे रब ने हाथी वालों के साथ क्या किया, क्या उसने उनकी तदबीर को अकारत नहीं कर दिया, क्या उसने उनकी तदबीर को अकारत नहीं कर दिया, यानी क्या जो तदबीर वो कर रहे थे उसको कैंसिल नहीं कर दिया, उसको ख़त्म नहीं कर दिया, उसको उल्टा नहीं दिया, और उन परिंदों के झुंड भेज दिए। एंड देन इट गोज इनटू डिटेल ऑफ हाउ इट वाज डन, लेकिन क्या उसने उनकी तदबीर को अकारत नहीं कर दिया, उल्टा नहीं दिया, गलत नहीं कर दिया, खता नहीं कर दिया। रिफ्लेक्शंस विद शेख रुज़वान मोहम्मद, a short ad break inshallah and be right back. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Radio Ramadan Reflections program, Surah Fil, is what we have been discussing in past few sessions, and today before the break we were on the second ayah and in depth the meaning of qaida and the meaning of tadlil, the root, the Arabic of qaida, the uses of the term qaida in different contexts in Quran, and means in this context here qaida. And then tadlil. Tadlil is also a term which needs to be understood in its pure meaning and also the context of this surah. So tadlil and qaida, the connection between qaida and Urdu, I read just before the break that क्या उनकी चाल को अकारत नहीं कर दिया, यानी it had no effect. अकारत का मतलब है कि उल्टा दिया, what they were there and it got obliterated, turned on his head. Is this the meaning in Arabic, akarat?
I mean, the thing about translation is that you're trying to capture one sense of the meaning. So if you were to give a very say not superficial or immediate understanding in another language for this, if you do in English, alam yaj'al kaydahum fi tadlil, did God not, I'm trying to think how the simplest way of doing it without trying to, did God not make would be the simplest universal word, make their plot futile. I would say that would be the simplest universal translation that you could take and then translate it into another language and you'd still convey the same meaning. So whatever I said there, I said, well, did not God not make their plot futile?
Yeah, futile. So they made them lose the objectives they had set out for themselves.
Yeah, so you can, it's ever. But if you want to translate it, you want to keep each word in a sense. But it doesn't capture anything of what we were just talking about. Because Kaid has this intricacy and connection in the Quran that's in its usage, which you have to then convey in the translation. Because remember, a translation is translations of the meaning. The meaning of Kaid in Arabic in the Quran is not the same as it is outside the Quran, because what you have in the Quran is the meaning patterns of the other usages of it within other chapters and other contexts, which build a web of meaning for that one word. So it's a lexical meaning of the word, which is why in the science of Quran you have wujuh al-Quran, which is a whole area of ulum al-Quran, which is the different faces literally of one word in the Quran. So there's one word, but it appears with different tones in the Quran itself. So some words like Khalifa, for example, will appear in the Quran in lots of different forms. It comes in one place with one meaning and somewhere else in another. But collectively, when you take them, all of them, each the words in each different place have some sense of the others. It's like a collage with one more prominent than the other. So look at dalal, dalla, or all these connected words from the same root, which is dad, lam, and lam. They have a core meaning, but sometimes one of the meanings which is related to it is more prominent than the other. And so in tafsir, what you're trying to do is say when the word comes up, which meaning is more prominent and the other ones are secondary. It's like a scale of different colors that you're trying to then, if you're trying to edit a photograph or something, and you have to edit the contrast, the brightness, the gamma, the saturation. So you're trying to going on a scale of different things. All those scales exist for each word, and what you're trying to do is get to the perfect balance for that specific context of the word itself. Like in this context, dalal, tadlil. Okay, what's more important? Is it the brightness, contrast, gamma? Is it the saturation? Is it things, or what is it, black point, whatever it is. So then it's trying to get which one you want to be more prominent in terms of meaning. And so then if you're asking, is that the right translation? Translations are just attempts to give you as quick as possible an insight into what's being said in the other language that you're translating into. But what we said here is you can't, and when you use the word plot, it indicates in English as well, if you look into it, a sense of something that's planned. It doesn't necessarily in English indicate something that's hidden, but Arabic kaid generally does. And it's
it's not a plan, it's a plot. A plot, yes. But by its very meaning it has hidden meaning.
But plot can also be something you plot out, so it can be known to other people. It can be a sequence of events. So in English, you have the ability for it to jump from one to the other as well. But kaid it's a word that's more deeply related to a deep psychological machination within the mind than plot in English. The word plot in English doesn't have that depth of cunning. So it's like a cunning, if you wanted to do it, it's a cunning plot.
Cunning plot.
So it's like, my dad always just loved the word cunning foxes. So it brings memories to my mind, because he used to say, oh, such and such a person is, or such people are cunning foxes.
Cunning foxes, yes.
So basically, like fox, I don't know why the poor fox is always embroiled in this, but this cunningness was, about, was it? Chalak. Yeah. So there's that cunning, mischievous nature in kaid, which is not there in the plot. You can have a plot which has that, but you have to explain that there's a cunningness to the plot. So you have to embellish it in English. So this cunning machination of a plot is brought to nothing. But the thing about the two words, kaid and tadlil, is how they're connected, because I'm going to mention it. Fi tadlil. It doesn't say, if you have to reconstruct it and say it in pure Arabic, you wouldn't use fi tadlil. You would say ضل كيدهن or ضل كيدهم or ضل الكيد. God caused the plot to unravel. But why does it say
it's fi? Fi means this particular one.
No, it means in.
Okay, fi. In. Yeah, fi is in. Okay. Not this particular one.
Within something. To fall within. Do you understand? So it's like there's the corresponding example in the story of Fir'aun and his the people around him when they start to leave him, because they see the power of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, his divine strength that he's been given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Fir'aun then, what does he do? He actually threatens them, and he says, وَلَأُصَلِّبَنَّكُمْ فِي جُذُوءِ النَّخْلِ. I will crucify you. It said literally in English, it translates as on palm trunks. So basically, I'm going to just crucify you. And where am I going to crucify you? Not on crosses, but the palm tree, the trunk of the palm tree. I'm going to crucify you on that. But the Quran doesn't say on it. It says fi judu' al-nakhl, inside. In other words, your pain is going to be such that I'm not going to nail you onto the trunk. I'm going to make you as one with the trunk. I'm going to drill you into the trunk and crucify you, basically. Feed you though. And so it's like the imagery is that you're going to go deep into it. You're going to experience a crucifixion in a way that you've never experienced it before, because you're going to be crushed into the palm trunk and crucified. So it's similar. The fee here is similar because it's creating imagery, a very rich imagery. And to do that, the Quran has to move from saying the normal thing, which is alam yaj'al. It's difficult to say in English, in Arabic actually, because the Quran has a much more poetic way of saying it. It's essentially, I said it before actually. What was it? What did I say?
Dalla.
Yeah, kaidakum. Yeah, God caused your plot to unravel, but that's not what's being said.
Dalla kaidakum.
Lam yaj'al kaidahum fi tadlil. It's like this crushed and processed within unraveling itself. So unraveling is like the image comes to me is Kaid is like you have these food processors, right? And you've got something you want to process. So imagine something like nutmeg. I'm thinking nutmeg because it's good for the macaroni and cheese that I'm going to make today. That you put in a food processor and it just crushes it. It just like crushes and decimates and makes into powder. That is the imagery that comes to mind, because you're actually unraveling it and decimating it and crushing it. And that's the image, the first image that's going to come to your mind. And it's not even said. Remember, I said the core pivot of this chapter is kaif, how. It's not what happened. It's not even why it happened, because that'll come later in the next chapter, but it's how it happened, which is the thing that brings your interest in. Before Allah even mentions it, which people, if I guarantee 100 people, I said, in this chapter, God is showing you the miraculous nature of how God decimated Abraha. Can you tell me the first instance where it appears in the chapter? Give me 100 people, and in fact, give me scholars as well. I'd probably say 100 people would say it's the next verse.